My dad had a business worth about $50 million in 1992 at the age of 38. Rags to riches. Incredible story. And it was stolen from him by Colonial Mutual, a big insurer.
The Man That Can Project podcast, a podcast empowering career-driven men to live more fulfilling lives. We are here to challenge your beliefs, redefine success, and talk about the important stuff in a relatable way. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. My name's Lachlan, Stuart. Let's get into it.
Lloyd Ross, this man can. I can see you've changed your hashtag almost thing on the YouTube line, which is awesome. Welcome to the show.
Good to see you, Lockie. Good to be here, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Mate, I want to know, can you finish this sentence for me? I've just started bringing it onto the show, and I think because you've already started it, I'm a man that can. Finish that sentence for me.
I'm a man that can. If I can, you can too.
Woo-hoo-hoo. I like it. I didn't prep you, but mate, dude, it's been so cool watching your journey. We connected probably like 15 maybe?
Yeah, probably. That was a while ago, 8 years?
Yeah, it goes fast, man. But we're having fun. We're definitely having fun. But your content's been popping back up on my Instagram, on my Facebook. Like, you've got so many great resources going on, and you've got so many things going on. You're an incredible husband. You're a business owner. You keep your health in order, which is what I was saying to you offline. I'm like, you're the trifecta, mate, which I strive to achieve. But you're doing a lot of cool shit. And I wanted to get you on to pick your brain, because there's a lot of people in our audience who are financially successful, but they have sacrificed health or relationships in order to achieve that. The second bit, as I was saying, is there's a lot of younger guys starting to listen to the show, and understanding how to create wealth and what their vehicles to do that, and even mindset around that, are a few things that they don't understand yet. And you've got a very simple process. I won't say it's not simple to do. There's always shit that makes stuff hard, but how you talk about it and the content that I've watched, it's very simple to follow. And you've also got multiple revenue streams. Juicy. Which people will be able to pick your brains. Obviously, we won't have time to dive into everything today, so people will be able to, reach out to you after you've got some great resources available, and they can get in contact with you. But I'd love to start. Where did your interest in money come from?
I have a real interest in freedom and choice. That's my interest. That's my real. That's my values, right? That's a top of the value chain for me, is freedom and choice. I think it is for most people, but they don't realize that that's what money's really designed to do. So it's not about, that's why I haven't got Lambos and stuff yet, because it's just not important. It's just so much more important to have choice and time freedom. And so I guess it started at age 11 when what actually happened was, and it's on one of my VSLs and one of the book funnels. And when I was 11, my through no particular fault of his own, my dad had a business worth about $50 million in 1992 at the age of 38. Rags to riches. Incredible story. And it was stolen from him by Colonial Mutual, a big insurer, unlawfully. and so he took him to court. He took him to court, and through a bit of court battle, he was on Four Corners. He was on TV, in the papers. I was in grade 4, I think. Grade 4 or 5. So I was probably 11. And it turned out that he won, but he lost everything. He basically, the 30,000 clients, the whole business went under. And so I remember him coming into the lounge room one day, and he sat me down and he said, "Hey, mate, I was going to tell you, we've lost everything. We're going to sell the house." And I remember just bursting out crying, like he made, like, it was dramatic, and he made it dramatic. I was like, "Oh shit, something bad's happening." So, I was pretty young. I was like, "Oh shit, it was bad." And because it was uncertain. He was painting this picture of uncertainty because he didn't know what was going to happen either. So I guess at that point I was like, oh my goodness, like, money can come and go, and it's really important to understand it. And then we went from this beautiful big house into a little small place with a double sharing bedroom. Like, it's just a big shift. So I guess that's when it appeared to me that money was a good idea to learn how to do it. And while we were living in that little complex we moved to, I started my little first business at 11, washing cars and just getting a bit of cash, for $5 a car. So that's kind of how it started.
Why do you feel you didn't take a negative approach to money? And, some people would look at that same event and be like, money's the root of evil. It's destroyed our life.
Oh, I think it's just only because I've never harnessed a victim mentality. Like, I've never really ever thought that, like, it can't be money's fault because money has no feelings. It's an inanimate object. It's just it's man-made. It can't control you. You're the only person in control. So I guess I've been a victim mindset, not a victim mindset. So victor is better than victim. So rather than say and be like, a business coach I worked with once told me, Lloyd, there's 2 types of people in the world: those that go at the world and those that let the world come at them. And I guess I've never been someone who just sits there and lets the world come at them in a reactive way. And I guess money's been the same way. I've never really let it. It seems weird to me that I would let it empower me. It just seems ridiculous. Like, it's like saying this desk here, this desk is going to control me. Like, what sort of mindset is that? So I guess it's never really crossed my mind that money is bad. It's only that I've been bad at it. So I've taken ownership of it. And Jim Rohn talks about that. He said, don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. So I started getting better.
Best quotes. So where did that journey lead you to start learning about money, and how'd you get better?
I think it started off in school, and I didn't learn about money at school, but I did, because my grade 11 English teacher said, Mr. Barber said, hey, gentlemen, when you leave this school as a teacher, I can tell you I don't drive the best car. Money's been a huge issue. I don't really want you guys to repeat that. We don't talk about it at school, so I'm going to give you a tip. I was like, oh, this is great.
What a legend.
These 2. Yeah, legend. Read these 2 books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and Richest Man in Babylon. And he just...
What do you think about those books?
Well, I read the Rich Dad, Poor Dad straight away, and I just was so... The one takeaway from that book was you got to buy assets.
Yeah,
it was so clear, and it was clear that getting a job was not the way it was to build assets. And of course, that all made sense. But I didn't have any money in grade 11, so it wasn't going to work out. I mean, where do I go from here? So I found that the practical steps beyond that were challenging. And then Richest Man in Babylon, the one lesson I got from that, which I actually read when I was 19, was pay yourself first 10%. That was like the ultimate lesson. So I always carried those. I wasn't making much money at 9. I was not making any, really. I was in Europe just camping, not making anything. But when I got really properly in my career at, say, 23, I took those lessons that I remembered and I started to implement them. So, and that was challenging because I didn't give me the exact steps in the book, aside from pay yourself first, which was pretty simple. But we encounter behavior issues and relationship issues along the journey that make those lessons very difficult to implement. So that's where it began. It began in school, and then it continued on beyond that.
Yeah. So that first part, I guess, essentially for building wealth was investing in yourself.
Yes, buying the books.
Yeah.
I think a level of curiosity. If you ask anyone, even if you ask Conor McGregor what makes him such a great fighter, he'll say to you, I have a curiosity for fighting.
Yeah.
And I think if you have a curiosity for anything, it's going to take you a lot further, because the person who enjoys walking will always walk further than the person who doesn't. So I had a level of curiosity about money, because don't forget too, my paradigm, like my belief system in money was, my dad would come home sometime. I remember he came home one night and he just threw $12,000 on the table in cash. He'd obviously sold his car, like something, but it never had any hang-ups, and he would always be working hard and making sales and talking to people, and money was, it was never a taboo. Not like my parents ever sat me down and taught me about money, which they didn't. It's just what was the behavior I was trying to model. And I never saw my dad ever and my mum ever be in victim mindset, ever. I don't think I've ever heard him complain.
That's cool. That's a really powerful thing to think about, that if you do have children, they're observing how you act, not so much what you're saying to them as well. So 100%. Are you presenting your best self for their...
Yes.
You got it. So you and I met in network marketing, and a lot of people have I don't know what it's like now, whether people still are all caught up in it, but I remember when I started, I had no idea what it was. So I was very naive, which helped me. But I learned so much from that industry, and I'd had bugger all, I guess, financial investment in it to lose, which gave me the frameworks, taught me a lot of brilliant skills. What made you get into it? So you were a lawyer.
You were great. You were great at it. You were great. Everyone on the podcast, Lockie's great at network marketing, just so you know. He was awesome. I remember doing some programs with you, like they do these 6-week programs and we'd been in together and you'd be getting all these results. I was like, this Lockie guy, man, he's so good. So it was a great to be on that path with you, and we connected, and I feel the same way about you. Is like we stayed in network marketing. We built a really good business, and we still have it's 10 years old now, just about, which is, I think, in network marketing, 10-year-old business is ridiculous. Like, feel like it's like a incredible milestone because people don't stay in it forever often. And so me, like you, I got started in I was in property business, selling real estate 6 days a week with my dad. Actually, I'd repatriated back from Dubai where I had a job there, got into real estate, started selling there. And my sister introduced me to network marketing in 2014. And I thought it was wonderful because I could actually get healthy, which is great because I needed to. And at the same time, share that story. And if people needed to get healthy, I could share a product that worked for me and I could get paid for that. And I think it was one of these, I'm just writing a new book at the moment called Time Rich. And I was just on an author call before this call. And I was telling this story. And I said it was one of those moments where I had this paradigm shift of where I was able to share a story. People were purchasing a product and repurchasing it. And I was getting paid once and again, not based on my time, but actually based on a product purchase from previous work done. And that was this paradigm shift to this whole like, wow, I've actually detached my money making from my time here. And that was my first real experience of doing that. Real estate was good, but you have to be there to do the deal. It was better than the job. So the hourly rate sucks. That's the worst. There's no leverage in that. Then there was more leverage in doing a deal, which was cool. Then network marketing was the next pace of leverage, which was actually you don't have to be there to make the money.
Yeah.
Massive shift in like it opened our world up. And then within 4 years of that experience, I left the property business. We'll travel the world with full-time network marketing and running the 4-hour work week that Tim Ferriss spoke about 17 years ago.
Yep. It definitely teaches you. Yeah, it teaches you so many skills. For me, when people ask, well, how would you start? I'm like, network marketing, like hands
100%,
down,
100%.
because you realize the importance of community and environment. You get the opportunity, if you excel, to speak in front of stages, develop programs, and you're literally insane. Sharing something you love. Yeah. Like it is. Yeah.
It's insane.
It taught me so much.
Have you seen that Instagram poster or meme that says, you need a hobby that makes you healthy, a hobby that gets you creative, and a hobby that makes you money?
Yep.
That's that. And so without that, I wouldn't have had my health on track. I wouldn't have learned how to make extra money and put it into a portfolio to become a millionaire. There's no way I would have learned the skills. I mean, the skills that you have now and I have now, for most part, we crafted those over a period of time in network marketing because you have to be good at connecting with people. You have to be good at relationship building. You have to be good at selling and follow-up and systems and rejection and speaking and presenting and management, everything. Look on the wall here. You can see behind me, right? See that? So there's there's 3 university degrees there. One is biomedical science, which is pre-med. One is a law degree because I became a lawyer, and one is a master's of international business, which from the best business school in this country, arguably. Now, in that business school, I didn't learn a damn thing about business, truly. Like, theoretically, sure. I learned more about business, life, people, money, and everything than all of those degrees put together in 4 years of network marketing that didn't cost me anything. In fact, we made about $250,000 in that period of time, maybe more, $500,000. Think about that. Isn't that wild?
Yeah, it is mind-blowing. It is honestly mind-blowing. And then those skills are transferable into everything else that we've got going on. But it's also proves to me that you don't have to sacrifice the things that traditional business or a lot of successful financially people tell you need to sacrifice, which is your relationships and your health.
Totally. I think it helps if you enhance those things.
Correct.
Like it helps. You don't have to be in great shape to be rich. You don't have to have great relationships to be rich. There are many people who have those things that are, who have money that don't have those things. But I've found for me personally, I think I could only be wealthy and be productive and be creative and do those things if I am in good shape physically and if I do have great relationships with my wife and my friends. Like, without that almost wouldn't be possible. Like,
and so you mentioned like you made the money you made from network marketing. You then started once again reinvesting back in yourself and in a portfolio. So had you had experience in that, or how did you get into the trading?
So when I was working in Dubai or Abu Dhabi on the projects there, I sorted my money out. It took me probably a year of mucking around to sort of I need to really get on top of this now. And so I'd always save 10% of what I earned, maybe more if I could. And I knew I had to buy assets. So I started looking and learning about shares because I didn't want to get into debt with real estate. I didn't want to buy property in a leasehold in Dubai. Like there was reasons why I didn't want to lean into that. And by the way, we just come out of the GFC. So I was anchored to that whole experience of property goes down by 50% too. And a lot of young people don't understand what the GFC is, and they just think property just goes up forever. Well, they're going to get a rude shock at some point, but don't know when that is. So I had that belief system to work through. So I didn't want to jump into that. I didn't want to be held down by debt because all my friends in work who had lots of debt, they had the golden handcuffs. They couldn't resign. They couldn't have choice. I was like, that's not me. I want choice. And so I was like, what else can I invest in with this cash to build assets that Robert Kiyosaki spoke about in Rich Dad Poor Dad? And the only way I could see that was shares. And I had no idea about that because the only belief system I had around shares being an Australian was they're risky, just buy real estate. And my background's property lawyer, real estate development. My dad was in real estate. I'm a fully licensed real estate agent. My whole background is real estate. My old man says it's a miracle that I don't own any. And so directly. And so I wanted to learn shares because I wanted to take small pieces of my money and put it to work. So I pick up this book from the airport. Again, I'm self-driven to learn. It's not like someone said to me, you need to go learn shares. It was like, I was curious. And so I heard about this guy called Warren Buffett. And I was like, oh, this guy with charts and all that stock stuff is charts and all this weird stuff because that's what you see on TV, which is absolute rubbish. So I pick up this book called The Snowball by Alice Schroeder from the airport. And it's all about Warren Buffett's story and his life. And I read that book and I had this penny drop moment. I'm like, whoa. I get shares. I understand this. I'm going to go and do this. This is what I want to be good at for my asset building. So I started out and I bought my first shares, $2,000 into Westpac Bank. And that's where I first started. And by the time we'd got into network marketing, we built about, I guess, $200,000 or $300,000 worth of a share portfolio already. Maybe 250, I forget. But it was like that. And I saw network marketing as a way. I remember sitting in the office one day in my property business, and after hours, sitting there on Excel going, okay, you want to be a millionaire, which is my definite purpose. I just wanted to be a millionaire. I was like, that's a cool goal. You're like, if you're a man and you want to be, like, what a good goal. It's just because it was challenging, not because for any other reason. So I had a definite purpose, and that's like the first rule. It's like, I had a definite goal. I want to be a millionaire. And Wikipedia's definition of millionaire is a net worth of $1 million. Okay. So I was like, how am I going to do this? So I had some money in the portfolio. I sat down with an Excel spreadsheet and I spreadsheeted out with compound interest at about 9% per annum, which is what an index fund brings in, how long it was going to take me to become a millionaire. And it turned out I was about 31. I guess I was 31 then. And I was like, oh, it's going to take me like 15 years. That sucks. I don't want to be that old.
That's not fast enough yet.
I was like, it's not fast enough. I was like, okay, well, I'm putting 25,000 a year away roughly now. This is $500 a week. It's going to be what if I could double that? What if I could put 50 grand a year away? And that's where network marketing, I was like, well, if we can do this at 500 a week extra money from our phones, profit, we can shift this into shares and scale, and we can get there twice as fast. And that was kind of what really motivated me to get better at network marketing.
So it's like that deep why behind what you were creating.
Yes, and the deep why goes beyond the million because I knew that the million could give us 50,000 a year in passive income. And that was my original escape plan from 9 to 5, and it stayed with me.
How did you become so clear on that? Because a lot of people, like, for example, you said the $1 million. That was my goal when I started network marketing as well. I was like, $1 million, that sounds fucking cool. Let's do it. And then you just do whatever it takes. Yeah. But then for you to be thinking, you already had these other ideas of what you could do with that money rather than just going to an island and doing all of that. What made you think about that?
I think because watching my dad, like he's a genius moneymaker. There's a few people I've ever met that are so good at that than him. But he's great at that. He's his genius. But I suppose he didn't. He wasn't always worried about compounding the money, you know, and he had a lot of real estate assets. But again, the GFC came and knocked a lot of people over. It did a number on it pretty well, everyone. So I guess it was like I was trying to learn from the gaps that he had that he knew he had. And I took that as a learning experience to say, what amazing things do I want to take from my dad? And what things have I watched in his life that I feel like I want to take that lesson and improve on? And I think that's the beauty of having mentors, to see where they go wrong and where they go right. And you can take what you want. So I decided to take the part of, well, I'm going to compound money early and I'm going to put it away, because I guess it even rolls back to the very first book I read about money, which is The Ant and the Grasshopper. The ant's working all through summer while the grasshopper's singing, playing his fiddle. And of course, winter comes along and the ants are all sorted with their food and the grasshopper's freezing his ass off outside. And I didn't want to be the grasshopper. So look, I've seen with my dad, he's made a ton of money in insurance, the number one insurance salesman in the world. Incredible story. And he's earned income in 2 big industries at 3 big times in his life. But I've also seen the other side of that, where it doesn't last. Like, money comes and goes in those industries, every industry, everywhere. And network marketing was no different. And I'm like, well, I'm seeing all these people max out their businesses in 5 minutes and make a shit ton of money with not a lot of effort. I knew in my heart of hearts that was that's gonna stop. I just know, and I knew it was going to stop with Bitcoin. Like, these things don't continue. I just know, because as soon as people start making a big ton of money in an area, either it gets hit by regulation because the government goes, no, you don't get to make money. We do that. So they'll regulate it away, or someone will do something dumb and they'll regulate it, or it'll get saturated and there'll be nothing left. And so that, I could see that coming. So I was like, I've seen it. Whereas people that come into new money and they experience money for the first time, they think that it's just going to last forever. And it doesn't. The only thing that lasts forever is assets. So I took that learnings I knew, right, of what I'd learned, and I just watched everyone crash their car. And I just said, I'll just pull over here and we'll park for a while and we'll just go steady and we'll put the money away. And that's what we did. So we didn't go as fast. We didn't play as big. We still did cool stuff. We invested in ourselves. We invested in trap. Like we did. We still lived an amazing life, but we did take a portion of it and invest it.
Yep.
And
how important, like, learning a lot of the stuff. Obviously, you had a mentor in your father, and not everyone gets a mentor where their parents are that way, teaching them those financial lessons, whether it's sitting down at the dinner table and talking about it, or you can observe it.
But we never sat at the dinner table. I guess I observed it. But don't forget too, with every benefit, there's elements of that are not good either. Like if you come up advantaged, you're in trouble too. Like,
exactly,
no one gets there is no such thing as a perfect hand, because if you're in royalty, if you get brought up as a trust fund kid, you're screwed. And everyone's like, oh, they're so like, oh, you had all these advantages. I think it's an advantage to have no advantages. You get tougher earlier.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone gets
100%.
handed. So I think, what, I went to university for too long. What did that cost me? My friends were making $100,000 a year while I was making nothing. What did that cost me? They were driving, the guys in trades were driving Range Rovers at 24. Like, so, and I was at university. So there's advantages and disadvantages to upbringings of every kind. You cannot pinpoint one. So I think it's important to say that too. Yes, you can have good mentors, but that can also be detrimental too, because all of a sudden you get influenced by them into the wrong things as well.
So it comes back to that, what you said at the beginning, where you just take responsibility. It's like you take the bits and pieces that you resonate with and you feel add value, and the bits you can stack and build upon, do that.
Yeah, take ownership.
How important, actually, firstly, how have you then gone on to find the right mentors for you since that, in business, to help guide you?
Yeah, it's a challenge, isn't it? Like, I think I've always, if I've admired someone for various reasons, I let them mentor me silently by their behavior. So with my dad, obviously, huge mentor in my life. My mum, obviously, to an extent too. Like, she raised us, and she's got wonderful integrity and character traits that I've been able to model. And my dad has great traits that I've been able to model. So it's very, very helpful to have great, loving parents, period. Like, it just is in general.
Yeah.
But, I assume my dad, his father died when he was 8, and he grew up in a not so happy household. Like, there's issues there too. So, but he made a thing of himself. So I don't think it matters, but he found mentors too through work. So typically what happens is, for me, I found a mentor in my parents first. Then my mum actually my parents divorced, and she was with this guy. He was a bit of a mentor. I could talk to him about shares and stuff like that. And then with network marketing, I found David T.S. Wood. He was the main trainer for the company,
awesome.
and I found him as a great mentor. And I went to like 17 of his events until we really got noticed. And now he's a friend, and he's actually in my 2 books. So he became a wonderful mentor in various ways of how to live life, and I aspired to be like him. And then I met through network marketing, I met Gavin Top, who's now become one of my greatest friends. And through him, he became a wonderful mentor. And the things he taught me about being a man, and like my dad taught me a lot about being a man too, but Gavin kind of put things in place that I didn't have. And he also challenged me and encouraged me and challenged me to do things that others couldn't. And so I guess it was like they find your way into your life, and you can decide at that point whether you want to get close to them or not. So I found I admired traits in all of those. So I always looked to go and spend time with my dad. Yeah. I found time, and my siblings didn't. I did. I just went and I invested time in hanging around my dad. So if he was in the bar, I went to the bar. If he was in a smoking section, I went to the smoking section. I like come out coughing and wheezing and spend time with him. And then when David was there, I wanted to be with him. So I flew over to Europe. I went to Bambuga to play golf with him. Then I flew to Europe to be with him in 2 events. That cost money and earned it. Then I actually earned my way. I did 2 boxing fights to get close to Gavin Top. So I've always earned my keep to get to my mentors. I've earned it and I've paid for it. And I've done that because I feel like there's some things they know that they can teach me. And success is something you have to catch sometimes. Almost always. So it's like, well, how do I catch this virus of success off these people and the things that they're good at that I want? And the only way to do that is to spend time with them.
I love that you touched on that point there where it's like you either earned it through working your way with the boxing or you paid for it. And that was one of the biggest things for me, especially when I started network marketing. I was like, okay, I want to be a millionaire. How do I get around millionaires? They don't want to be around me. I'm a fucking drop kick at this point in time. So then it's like, okay, I'll invest in myself to get around them. I'll pay to go to events, or I'll do what I need to do to get noticed, to speak at the events so that they invite you to things, or they spend time with you. And that's what I've done. Whereas a lot of people just expect it to happen. It's like,
it doesn't
fucking happens.
No, you get recognized publicly, but you've got to do it based on the work you do privately. And that's really what I always understood. So like one mentor leads to another. So all the time I spent with my dad, it definitely accelerated me and excelled me. And he taught me, like, it was wonderful. Like the things I learned are insane, but like I had to pay the price. When I went to work with him, there's no wages. I had to have a certain amount of money to seed me for 6 to 12 months of no income. Then I had to learn the craft and I had to run the business. It was a baptism of fire, but it was the best way to be, because without that hardship, I wouldn't have learned the most. And then when I went on to do network marketing to get close to David Wood, I mean, not only did I have to buy tickets to all these events and fly to, but like thousands of dollars, but we had to actually excel and build a 6-figure residual income under the age of 35 and become a legacy club millionaire in the company for him to recognize us. So not only did we pay, but we also earned. And then with Gavin, I paid for his boxing program. So I paid thousands of dollars. Then I also earned my way by doing 2 fights and being there for him and doing things with him and stepping up to the plate and being a man about it. And that's what I did. And that got his attention. And now we became friends. So I've done both. I don't think you get to choose. Pay and earn. That's why I get this shit. When I'm mentoring people, I'm like, look, here's my point. The earning and the paying to get to be with my dad, that allowed me to excel at network marketing, I think, because I had a certain amount of skills and traits that I'd modeled. And then in network marketing, because I got close to David, it allowed me to get close to David Wood. But that compounded, because without getting good at the network marketing, get close to David Wood, I wouldn't have been in the audience I was speaking at the Brisbane Entertainment Centre, and I'd won that award, Man of the Year, for the company in Australia. And Gavin recognized me because of that award from the crowd. And that's why he messaged me. So you don't get to meet the next mentor almost unless you have excelled with the current mentor.
Yeah. Credibility behind it.
It compounds.
Yeah.
You find the next one from the previous one.
That's one of I think we could wrap it up here now. No, we're not going to, but that for me is one of the most powerful things I think I wish people would understand, is they want to get around people and they expect the people to notice, but they don't want to do the work, or don't want to part with money. It's like they love money so much. And actually, you did a video on this.
Yeah,
they love
the reel
so
this
much
morning.
money. Yeah. Oh, was it this morning?
Yes.
Can you finish my sentence there then?
No, you go. I think you're onto it. It's good.
It was where people love money so much that they don't want to spend it, which is what they need to do to get to where they want to go. And it's like that's the reason why they're staying broke.
Yes. It's a cruel paradox. It's a cruel world we live in. The thing you want the most, you have to get let go of to get.
Yeah. And I'm sure you experience it as well. Sometimes you chat to people and we see it in our academy and they're like, oh, I have to pay for that. And you're like, yeah. And if you want to be in our circle, if you want to learn what I've invested over $100,000 and you've invested, hundreds of thousands as well. It's you're not just going to show up and roll in. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. You've got to earn the right to be here.
Yes. And your network determines your net worth. And so if you can find a mentor, what they really want is people that work their guts out for them and make their life better. And if you can do that, and the way to do it is to give. So if you like someone, give a ton to them, and you'll be anyone who really gives to me, like it's going to get my attention. But they don't. People don't know how to engage a mentor. You got to like bloody be the A+ student.
Literally do the things for them. I'm sure you get the same as well. You get emails or Instagrams every day. Hey, I've just done this. Would you write back if you want me to send it through to you? It's like, well, just send it. Like that's how you're going to get noticed.
They'll learn that lesson next. And I have had that too. Like, you're right. It's just go and make their life easy. Like if you make my life easy, I'm going to work with you.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But this probably leads us into your books. What made you write the books?
Well, it's funny that you bring that up now, because thinking of that journey of the success with my dad with rebuilding a business together, the success of network marketing, getting close to David T.S. Wood and winning the awards and speaking and going through all that courage stuff to get to that point, allowed me to talk to Gavin, allowed him to reach out to me and then do 2 boxing fights, which takes a lot of courage. He then, we're training he challenged me to do a 111 kilometer ultra marathon with my wife, Alicia, and her sister. And we had 8 weeks to prepare for it. I'd only ever run 10K. So this is this wild challenge.
8 weeks.
Wow.
Called
the Guzzler. It's called the Guzzler. And
I've heard of the Guzzler, yeah.
Guzzler. It's the most gnarliest ultra marathon in Australia, I think, or certainly in the state. And so we're gearing up for it. And anyway, so after the boxing fights and while training for that ultra, being around Gavin, he'd written a book called A Rite of Passage for the Modern Man. And he's been training men at their worst and best for years. He's like a pro. And so he said he's so good at bringing out the best in men. Like he's got a God-given talent. It's God-given, right? And so he was training at the boxing and we're doing the runs for the ultra, and I'm spending a lot of time with him. And he said he'd written that book, and he said, man, I've heard you talk about money with these guys. You've got to write a book. You got to write a book. And I thought, we all think about writing books, don't we? Like it's this beautiful legacy thing we want to do, but we all get to this point where like, how do you actually flip and do it? So he actually helped me because he went first. So he had the arrows in his back. I realized the way to do it was write a smaller book than what I anticipated. And it was just all about my story. So at that point, people said, Lloyd, how long did it take you to write your first book? And I said, well, it actually took me 20 years because you have to have the stories to share of the lessons you've learned. And that it takes a long time. Otherwise, it's not going to be a compelling book and you can't impart wisdom. So it was that time was right for me. So he challenged me. He said, in front of all these men, he said, Lloyd's going to write a book. He's going to do it in 4 weeks. And that's what makes him so good at what he does. So without
in 4 weeks.
Without having to go through Dad and then David Wood and then Gap, see how it compounds? So I would never have got to the book. And so at that point too, he introduced me to his son, Jay, who's now a business partner of mine, who's an amazing guy. Incredible what he's achieved at his age. He's awesome. He lives in Colombia. I'll hook you up with him. He'd be good on the podcast too.
Yeah.
But he's amazing. Anyway, so he helps me bring this book to life. We do it together. We build this business from scratch during COVID, this education business, which came with a book and some courses. And the book is all about the journey of what we're talking about, of how money's weaved into this, what we did, and the lessons in that book. So it's called Money Grows on Trees. And we launched it in 2020, at the end of 2021, January, and it was, by all means, a success. And then we're running along doing one of our runs, and Gavin said, "I'm writing a second book. You should do one too." And I was like, I just recovered from the first one. And so we were actually crafting a mentorship program, like an education program, a 12-month program to help people implement these lessons. So I wrote that book, Money Buys Happiness, which is this one, which is actually the number one book that we promote now. And it talks about these 5 steps to millions that I followed, mindset, mentorship, manage money, multiply money, and make more money. And so it sort of talks about the framework of that in that book. And that's built this really wonderful, fun education business that we've just won some awards for now. So that's how it's compounded.
I saw you hit that 2 comma club as well, which for those who don't, that's like $1 million through one funnel, right? With ClickFunnels.
Yeah, $1 million I found out the hard way. So we hit $1 million in Aussie, and I'm like, "Hey, we did it! We got the award." She goes, "No, it has to be American." And of course, the American dollar is like the strongest it's ever been at 66 cents. I'm like, "Oh, right." So to wait.
It's good when you're living in Oz, though.
Yeah, it's great when you're living in. Yeah, that's right. Yay!
That's awesome.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, and so obviously going through the process of then writing a book, it would have helped you refine like the frameworks that you'd learned and really help you teach and coach those things a lot better.
Totally. I think when you're an author and you write the book and it gets well received and people enjoy it and it helps them, the most important thing is they can change themselves from reading it. That is an effective book. And but what I found was a lot of people needed more than a book. They needed accountability, and that's why mentorship and coaching programs. That's why the coaching industry is so big now, because the accountability requirement and the problem is so big and vast for people that's what they need. So that's what compelled us to continue with that business. But the book really compartmentalizes the basics that I wish I would have had potentially if I'd read those 2 books earlier that I mentioned. Like, it's a bit more practical. And that's why I like it. But when you're an author and you write books, as successful as it is, you can probably you almost want to rewrite it. You're like, oh, I've learned so much even the last 2 years or 3 years. And so my objective is to, I'm gonna at some point probably rewrite them. But for now, they're serving a good purpose.
That's awesome.
One thing I will say is that on that journey too, so when you get into book write, you attract an audience, and then you become known for something, which is money and so forth. And I've been coaching people on it for so long now. I noticed something that popped up, and it was the fact that it's not even about the money management, like paying yourself first, having an emergency fund, putting some money aside, buying assets, buying shares, whatever it is you choose, not having too much debt. They're very important principles that almost no one follows, by the way. Some do, but a lot of people don't. And so I knew that was the case. So I'm helping him to do those things, right? Implementation. But what I noticed on the journey was it wasn't the money that was the problem. It wasn't the money. It was somewhat of the behavior, which is why people gravitate to James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, so much, because they actually have a behavior problem. But I drilled down even further, and I realized every time I talked about something, my students would come up with this one thing all the time that was getting in their way of their money. You know what it was?
I want to know.
I have no time. And so time management has become this wealth management thing, because I've learned that the wealthiest people don't scale money, they scale their time. And that was leverage. A huge paradigm shift, massive leverage. Leverage is the 9th wonder of the world when it comes to wealth creation. And it also amplifies your time. So I started becoming the student of this time thing. So I'm reading the books from Dan Sullivan, like The Who, Not How, and Naval Ravikant's books. And I'm becoming this and we're applying it to our businesses. And we're seeing our wealth scale and also my busyness fall. So I'm working less hard and making more. And so I realized at that point, busyness and wealth don't live together. They're on opposite ends of the spectrum. And so when you say to someone, how are you? And they say, I'm really busy. They may as well say, I'm really broke. It's the same thing.
Yep.
It's the same thing. Wealth doesn't live there. So I'm realizing all these shifts in my own head, thinking, oh my God, I thought when I had another business, I'd be busier, but it's not true. And so that's what prompted me to write this 3rd book, which is what I'm doing now. That's where I had that author talk this morning. And it's all about how to actually create time, because I think that's the real problem for people. They can't even sit down and do an audit, Lockie, on their accounts.
Literally, yeah.
So how are they ever going to get wealthy?
Yeah.
So it reminds me of this. It reminds me of this quote. which was what my student told me once. He said, Lloyd, it feels to me like what you're trying to do is what Desmond Tutu did. I was like, what's that? Or what he said. I was like, what's that? He said, at some point in time, we've got to stop pulling people out of the river. And we've got to go upstream and find out why they're falling in. And so that's the next phase of the journey.
That's cool. So it's almost like this series that you're going to take people through.
Pretty much. The trilogy, like
the
paradigms. Yeah.
Where can people grab the book?
So they can get the Money Buys Happiness book. You just go to moneybuyshappinessbook.com.
Simple.
Yeah, it's really cool. We got this cool offer at the moment. Like, it's gnarly. It's like $9 and you get all this extra cool stuff. So it's good.
Yeah, I was checking it out before. So for everyone listening along, you can the link's in the show notes to save you the hassle of having to type that very difficult name in.
I wish I had one that's shorter, but yeah.
What about the podcast? So you've obviously got your own podcast going on as well. I've listened to a couple. What inspired you to start that as well?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I really admire you for jumping on the podcast thing so early. Like, I remember when you did this ages ago, I was like, Lockie's doing this. It was so weird back then. I was like, oh, what's Lockie up to? And it was weird. Like, wasn't it? It was this strange thing in 2017. So you jumped on that wagon pretty fast. I didn't understand it because I'm like, why the hell do people listen to podcasts? I didn't get it, Now I understand why. So I'm not a huge podcast listener. I do have a couple that I like, but I'm not really. I do probably listen through YouTube, but that's what really I neglected it. But what happened was this. This is truly how it started. Okay.
The inside scoop.
It's really interesting because it's like, here's what happened. I saw these people like you. They weren't like you because they don't have the same character traits, but they were getting on the podcast wagon. And I was trying to kind of be in business with a couple of them in our network marketing business. So that's a really good testing ground for character. Because they come in, if they can't follow, simple instructions, if they quit things early, it's a very quick character test. So there's people, one of them came in and she goes, I've got a top 100 podcast in Australia. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I'll put her on this massive pedestal. I'm like, whoa, that's insane. That's amazing. You're like a superstar. Anyway, she comes in and she's terrible. Like, didn't come to meetings on time, quit things, blah. And here's what happened. I thought, if you have a top 100 podcast, I'm getting into that industry because if you can do that, I'm definitely going to be able to do that. So it's more like I saw that there was a lot of people in these getting noticed and they didn't have real success character traits that I really admired. So I'm like, oh, if I get into there, I'm going to actually make it. I'm going to go for it. So that's what prompted me. Then I didn't know how to do it. So I'm on a podcast like this. And the guy that interviewed me said, Lloyd, why don't you have a podcast? I'm like, because I have to get a studio and get all this machinery and da-da-da. He's like, no, you don't. You just let me do it. And that was, again, this whole like, don't ask how, ask who. So he said, I'll do it for you for free. And here's him trying to get close to me now. So that's smart of him too. So it's a collab, right? So he did that. And what I did was I went out and got a mic from JB Hi-Fi for $100, plugged into the bottom of my phone, got on the podcast app, and then just went bang, just started talking. That was it.
Sorted. Yeah.
Done. Now he produces it. Yeah. So that's how it started. And I think I underestimated how many people listen to podcasts, but I also wanted to build one where it was like snippets of value about money that just to give. It's a free podcast. There's no ads, nothing. It's just free. And there's some really cool episodes, like 130 episodes now. And so we've won some awards with it. And so I love it. And so that's why that's probably really what brought me to this pod. Like, I love what you're doing because I think it makes a lot of sense. Give people value until they give you their credit card.
Yeah, and exactly. and that the podcast is called Money Grows on Trees as well for those who want to listen, because once again, some people like reading, some people like listening, but there's plenty of great resources out there that you've put out there. And I just feel so many people have financial stress and it impacts so many areas of your life. So you need to eventually just address your situation and start taking action to change what's not working.
Totally. Yeah. And it's so simpler than what people think. Like, there's a few things that I mentioned that you do. You just put them in place. And it's like showering. Like, you shower every day to stay clean. You brush your teeth to stay clean. You go to the gym to stay in physical shape. People are doing nothing with their money to stay clean. Just get in the habit of clean money. Yeah, you'll be fine. Yeah, it's not that hard.
Simple. So, Lloyd, you've shared the website, but where can everyone find you and reach out to you?
Instagram, I think, is the best place. That's where I'll put a lot of That's where I hang out a fair bit. So at Lloyd James Ross is my Instagram handle. So yeah, hit me up, follow me, DM me, say hello.
Love it.
Yep.
Mate, dude, as I was saying before, it's been cool to watch your journey. And you've probably inspired me to write a book. I've been hearing it for years, do it. And then as you said, it's like, yeah, we think about it and then something else comes up, but you managed to do it in 4 weeks. So maybe I'll put a deadline on to Christmas or something. We'll see what happens.
Here's my advice to you if you write a book. When you write a book, I should say, because I think you should definitely write a book. And it's obviously going to be a wonderful title, because you're going to, what you've done is you've actually created a lot of content for the book already in your podcast episodes, right? All the frameworks you've learned about men and teaching them, helping you, mentorship, you've got all the collateral ready to write a book. But here's what I'll say. It pays off to take the time to write a flippin' amazing book. And I think I learned that from Alex Hormozy. If you develop a really good product, the marketing doesn't just look after it, but it will become shareable and you'll do really, really well. And I think that's my advice to you if you write a book. Just really spend the time at nailing it. Yeah,
good advice, sound advice. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Lloyd, thank you so much for coming on. For everyone who listened, if you liked it, go check out where Lloyd's at on the socials and definitely get a copy of his book. As he said, it's $9 at the moment. Absolute steal. Invest money to make money.
Yeah, it's the best way to do it.
Yeah, and make sure you share the episode and leave a rating and review. Thank you guys for tuning in.